Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Knowledge Gap podcast. I'm your host and founder, Joe Ignis, and the owner of the Knowledge Gap Company, where we help business owners grow their business through personal branding and marketing. We are doing a different style of our show where we're answering questions from the audience. I'm super excited. We got some really good questions. If you're new to the podcast and to the YouTube channel, we have weekly episodes that come out at 5 o'clock every single Thursday on how to grow in life and how to grow in business. So hopefully you'll subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you around with some comments and some likes, and we can be interactive. So here are the 3 questions that we're going to talk about today. Question number 1 is from David on how I got my start in business. Question number 2 is from Mustafa, and it's about the pay debate between commission and salary, which one's better. And finally, Riley asked a question on how do you decide who you should take advice from? Let's get started. All right, so David, thanks for the question. I want to know in more detail how you got started. So I'm not going to bore you with all of the different details, but basically how I got my start, my biggest claim to fame was in the summer of 2020 when the COVID pandemic hit and everyone was panicking. I was living in Michigan right before this happened, and I was recruiting college students to sell books door to door. It was my 5th summer doing this crazy 80-hour-a-week straight commission door-to-door sales job. I was really good at it at this point, and the goal and vision was to really impact some people that summer. So we were recruiting at Michigan. I remember the day that COVID hit and we had selected a student to come work with us for the summer. And the very next day, the entire campus of Michigan State shut down. It was just done. It was over. And so my recruiting partners and I were like, what the heck do we do? And I remember spending the next 2 months sitting in our apartment bedrooms on Zoom, trying to navigate connecting to students and recruiting during COVID-19 when everyone was terrified, and we were recruiting for a door-to-door sales internship, which means you're supposed to go interact with people in person when COVID was first hitting. So people were terrified. It was crazy. We kept working. We had a mass exodus of students, but we ended up with a team, maybe about 18 total. I had about 12 students on my personal team that I had personally recruited. Everyone was terrified. I mean, the whole media was in an uproar, if you remember this. When we got out there, we had 5 people quit the first week in Southwest Virginia due to COVID concerns or just the internship being really hard. And there was all this fear. People would talk about the economy struggling. Do you really think that these kids can sell anything? That's what parents would ask us. It was crazy because there was all of this negativity centered around this will never work, the world's ending, the economy's gonna fail, no one's gonna buy anything, nobody has any extra money. And what actually happened is we got out there, we had a strong start, and my team ended up number 4 in the world. So in 11 weeks, for example, just personally, I had started a business from scratch and built over $200,000 business in literally 77 days. My organization and team combined with me, we sold nearly $1 million in product in 11 weeks. That's $935,000 in 11 weeks. Most of these people had never sold anything before, and we had a great year. And the crazy part was I was only 23 years old, so I was a extremely young leader at this point. This was a really big moment in my career because I really got my start in sales and in business by believing that success doesn't come from luck, and it comes from the mindset of making things happen rather than succumbing to fear and allowing things to happen. Nobody believed that going out and selling books door to door during the first summer of COVID was gonna work, and we made it happen and had $1 million in sales. It was crazy. What was the basis for success for me was that principle of making things happen, not allowing things to happen to me. Because what's happening in the world doesn't dictate who is successful. In fact, it's the personal decision of the person who decides if they are successful. So you decide if you're successful. With every problem, there is a solution, but to find the solution, you must first believe that it exists. That's how I got my start during COVID, had one of my best years, had over 100% growth in my sales organization when everybody was absolutely terrified and most businesses were closed. Thanks for asking that question, David. Really appreciate it. Look forward to some more. All right, so question number 2, the salary versus commission pay debate. What are your thoughts? From Mustafa. Thanks for asking the question, Mustafa. So when I look at this, I really just think of some pros and cons, and my perspective is that doing a commission-based job or running your own business, being in the merit-based space, meaning that you are rewarded for how hard you work and the quality of your performance, is way better than almost any salary position. Here's why I think that. I think when you have a salary, 95% of the time, you are being paid for complacency. You're guaranteed money, which is great. I mean, it's so safe, but whether you improve exponentially or not doesn't determine how much money you make. In a sales, commission, or running your own business, you are absolutely incentivized and motivated to grow as a person. If you grow as a person, you'll grow your sales. If you grow as a leader, you'll grow your organization. You'll in turn make a lot more money. And so I love having that sports mentality, that commission mentality of you're rewarded by how hard you work. And I think that's an incredible thing to have, because I think if you're on that salary, it's so easy to just not try, to just be like, oh, cool, I clock in 9 to 5 and I do this thing. And that just sounds so unadventurous to me. And there's great work that those people do. And the 5% of people who really have to work hard are, in the sort of the CEOs, leaders of different companies. A lot of those people are obviously salary. So I would say in that you're of the mindset that you're constantly improving to run the business, or you get fired. So, there are some places where salary does something similar, but I think for the average person, you have creative freedom to make decisions. It's your thing. And that I think is just so valuable when it's just all up to you. You push yourself, you grow, and it forces you to become the best version of yourself, which I think is a very noble pursuit in life. You will help a lot more people, because growing a business is also about building community and inspiring others and helping others add value to their lives. So I think that's really important. So the second thing I would say about salary versus commission is just like the taxes and the wealth building aspect. So one of the reasons I left my previous job, and this is for basically every job, there's always these contracts that you sign. And one of the things I had on my to-do list in life is write 5 books. And when I was reading the contract and talking about maybe writing a book, I found that if I were to publish a book while I worked at a corporate company, they own the rights to the book. That's crazy. That blew my mind. And I just thought that that's not really where I wanted to go in life on the wealth building aspect of things. I'd like to own it, find my publisher, or self-publish and be in charge of my own thoughts. And I don't want someone else to own my intellectual property. I also think, just on this wealth building topic, taxes for running your own business or commission-based jobs and 1099s. I have an accounting background, if you don't know that. My first $100,000 I made while in college, I paid a smaller percentage of that $100,000 in taxes, because I was able to write off so many different expenses that you are allowed to write off when you're creating an entrepreneurial exercise. So it's a really big deal. You save a lot of money on taxes, and you learn a lot about taxes, so you can incentivize your behavior way better than feeling like somebody else owns my stuff. That just terrified me when I was there. Last but not least, of course, in the commission base, the running your own business, the potential earnings pretty much limitless. And I just think there's a sense of adventure that comes with that. When you are in charge of your own destiny, you can just decide to go make things happen, set goals for yourself, retire when you want. There's so much less fear to jump out of your comfort zone when it's really normal for you. And doing sales and running a business is constantly difficult. You're constantly failing, and you're building a habit of this mindset that is totally unstoppable. And I love that sense of adventure. The amount of cool people that you meet in running a business or doing sales in most other jobs, in my opinion. Riley's question, who should I follow for advice? Okay, so first of all, when you're thinking about advice, I'm gonna teach you this thing called the hierarchy of friendships. This is a conversation I had with my wife when we were actually in the dating phase of our relationship. And she was asking me a similar question, and this seemed to help her a lot. And this is something I've taught a lot of students and a lot of salespeople that I've worked with in general, because this is such an important question, especially with so much nonsense happening on social media, so many things that are being said with quote unquote advice that people really struggle with wading through the mess and figuring out, does that apply to me? So in order to explain that, first we have to agree and buy into the fact that you decide who you spend your time with, and who you spend your time with influences your growth and trajectory in life. So you have to believe that who you accept advice from really does change where you might end up in life. So if you agree with that, then we want to talk about what I call the hierarchy of friendships. With the hierarchy of friendships, it's basically this idea that you want to compartmentalize your relationships into categories of who you're going to allow to influence you, who you're going to accept advice from in your life. So it's really helpful when you do this, because you can stop caring what everyone thinks and start caring about what the most important people in your life think. So it's called the hierarchy of friendship. So you want to have, number one, your inner circle, then you're going to have close friends, then you're going to have acquaintances, and then you're going to have everybody else. So there's 4 categories there. Your inner circle needs to be people who are made up of these 2 qualities. These 2 qualities comes from the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. He talks about leadership is influence, and there's 2 ways to gain influence in life with people. So number 1 way to gain influence is have something that people desire, have something people want. So for example, if you are looking to have a great marriage, you don't get advice from somebody who is divorced or who has never been married. They have not gone through the experience. They have not gone through it successfully. If they're on the divorce thing, sorry for that person for getting divorced. That obviously sucks. but they don't know how to do this correctly. It'd be better to get advice from somebody who's been married for 35 years and both parties, man and wife, are both really happy with their marriage and it's thriving. Get advice from that person. Same thing with sales. If you're trying to get advice on sales and someone's never done sales and they're a teacher in a classroom, they probably don't know actually how to do sales. So you need to get information from somebody who's actually experienced. They need to have that, something that you want to learn. They need to have results that back up what they're saying. The second thing is they need to have a motive that takes your best interests at heart. For example, when you're in a sales scenario, the salesperson wants you to buy. So of course, there's an agenda there. They're going to say some things to try to get you to buy, no matter what they say, right? But your mom might have your best interest at heart. So getting information from her, she can influence you in a different way, right? So what's the motive? What's the motive of somebody on media? What are they trying to get you to do? If there's what we call a quid pro quo, if they're trying to get something from you and get you to do something that benefits them, they may not have the best motive. So you need to find people who have your best interest at heart. So if they have both of those things, those are people that I put in to my inner circle. That should be like 5 to 10 people. There's not a lot of people who think that way, and that's okay. This is really who you ask advice from. Friends who maybe have one or the other of those things, you might, I always take their advice with a grain of salt. There's might be some wisdom there and there might be some bias there, right? And then acquaintances and everybody else, I literally just don't care about their opinion unless they have one of those two things and it's something that I'm interested in. So hopefully that helps. Riley, thank you for the questions. Before you go, just a quick message from our sponsors. This video is sponsored by Campus Cuts by Monica. She is a local, incredible hairstylist near the University of Tennessee. And if you're a guy at the University of Tennessee and you want to look incredible, you need to go to Campus Cuts by Monica on Cumberland Avenue. You can check her out and follow her on Instagram at Campus Cuts by Monica. So go follow her on Instagram, and the next haircut, go down there and check it out. So guys, that's going to conclude this episode of the Knowledge Gap podcast. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Go ahead and give me a like and a comment below so that way I can keep listening to you and creating incredible content. We have episodes coming out every single Thursday at 5 o'clock. Stay tuned for more. We appreciate you guys. If you want to learn how to grow in life and in business, that's what our channel is about. So I encourage you to subscribe if you haven't yet and join the Lion Chasers Book Club for business owners, salespeople, and entrepreneurs for accountability and helping you grow your business. That link for the Lion Chasers Book Club Facebook group is in the description. So thanks guys. Have a wonderful week.